Eure Majestät, sehr geehrter Herr Bundeskanzler Merz, lieber Friedrich, sehr geehrte Premierminister aus den
from the European countries present here today, Lady Mayor Dr. Linden, I am delighted to welcome the Charlemagne Prize laureates, honored MEPs, representatives of the German Parliament, of the North Rhine-Westphalian State Parliament, Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen. Europe is my life, and it is the greatest honor of my life to stand here before you. First of all, I would like to thank Your Majesty, King Philippe, and Federal Chancellor Friedrich Merz for their kind words. These words breathe the spirit of the Charlemagne Prize. And this prize, this city, are the symbol of a unified Europe. So many things testify to our culture and our history, to Europe's outstanding beauty, and to our tragic struggles and fights, and our many renaissances, and our rebirth from the ashes after 2 horrible world wars. The miracle of Europe, the reunification of people's destinies and histories, are written down in this city. Yesterday I arrived already, and I enjoyed the rare luxury to visit this city and have some time to ponder on the wonderful things. For instance, where Europe comes from, what it is today, and what's even more important, where we're heading in this historically challenging time. Here at the center of Aachen, there are 3 monuments, and they impressively speak of the history and the relevance of Europe. First of all is, of course, Aachen Cathedral. This morning, I was able to attend a very special High Mass. Whoever sees the Palatinate Chapel feels that this power was assembled here. What a place! What a power! The cathedral is a unique testament to the spiritual, the cultural, and the political renaissance of Europe, triggered by the vision of Charlemagne. His idea for Europe was to create a space where science and culture, education and rule of law can develop, where people strive for knowledge and shared values. He was convinced that the future of Europe was based on its past, like the chapel, inspired by Byzantine, Roman, and classical art, but shaped for the new era. Like our future always will rest on the past, culture and knowledge, history and values. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is what Europe means to me. And the second place in Aachen that it is so decisive to understand Europe no longer exists. Exactly 100 years ago, in May 1925, in the old synagogue of Aachen, a young woman got married, full of hope for the future. Edith Holländer. Edith Holländer and her family belonged to the relatively small but flourishing Jewish community of Aachen. Only a few years after her marriage, the old synagogue during the Crystal Night was destroyed, burnt down through the night of the program, a dark, gloomy messenger of what was to come. Only 25 Jewish survivors returned to Aachen after the war. Edith Holländer was not among them. She and her husband Otto actually fled to the Netherlands, and from there in Amsterdam, their youngest daughter Anna, during the war, started a diary. And this diary, the diary of Anna Frank, became a testimony to the life of a growing child between hope and fear, caught in the closed rooms, hidden away from the Nazis, and menaced by imprisonment and death. And until today, it teaches us a lot about the nature of humans. Allow me to quote Anne Frank with one sentence that already impressed me when I was a young student, but even more so today. She wrote, "And yet, when I look up to the sky, I think that everything will turn to the better again. And that this hardship will end, that calm and peace will return to the world order. In the meantime, I have to hold up my ideals high. In the times that will come, they will probably become important," unquote. Neither Anne nor Edith Holländer nor her sister Margot ever got this opportunity to do so. Today in Aachen, there's a new synagogue, a symbol of rebirth, of resurrection, but also of remembrance. A painful reminder for Europe to be alert and withstand all those who sow hatred and want to divide our society. Europe knows this old path, and we know it always leads to demise. And never, never again we must embark upon this path to ruins again. For me, these words said by Anne Frank are a lesson in humanity, the duty to never forget, and a brief for me to shape a society where every child can realize their dreams and wishes. This is what Europe also means to me. And the third place I want to talk about is this City Hall, where we're all located today. 75 years ago, right here, the European pre-thinker Richard Covert Hogan Kalergi received the Charlemagne medal as the first person. He also had a vision for Europe. A Europe where people, thanks to a shared culture and shared values, freedom and respect for human dignity come together. A Europe inspired by big ideas and high ambitions. By and large, the history of the past 75 years proved him right. The generations of the founding fathers and mothers of our union wanted peace. They wanted to create peace and security in this continent so devastated by a war. The following generation wanted the internal market, and later with the joint currency wanted to lay the foundation for prosperity for all. And for the generation of 89, it was about freedom and the reunification of Europe. Peace and prosperity. Freedom and unity. Ladies and gentlemen, this too is Europe to me, and I think also am speaking on behalf of all of us if I say this is also Europe for all of us. The actual reason why I kicked off with these three symbols is that they say something about what it means to be European and what it means for our future. They show that our history, that is both gruesome and great, connects us as Europeans, as a generation. It is not only the joint dreams that connect us, but also the shared nightmares. And for me personally, they show how deep this longing for new departures is, how deep we feel this feeling inside us. Richard Coden of Alaria once said, and I quote, "The nature of Europe is the will to change the world for acting and making it a better place. Emancipation, reformation, and revolution are a constant state," unquote. And when I look around in today's world with all its instability, then I believe that Europe actually needs to rediscover this spirit, the spirit of courage, of acting, and of renovation. It is time for Europe to rise up again and initiate and realize the next big European project. And this is why I believe that the next big era, our next big unifying project must be departing from an independent Europe. Dear friends, an independent Europe. I know that this message sounds eerie to some, but at the bottom, it's about our freedom. The people of Central and Eastern Europe have known this for a long time. Personal freedom is only possible where there is collective independence. And we have to face realities of today. We cannot actually just stay and watch. We cannot simply stand by and be brought off track by the changes, or think wrongly again that the storm will simply pass by again and that things will actually return to normal if the war is over, if we agree on tariffs, if the next elections produce other results. No, it won't be. It will never become that way because the geopolitical tensions are huge. And what we once took for granted as an international order within no time has changed into international turmoil. The world is again characterized by imperial forces and imperial wars, by authoritarian forces prepared to mercilessly abuse our dependencies, by large powers prepared to use any means, fair and unfair, to actually obtain an advantage. And for much too long, many of us thought that these events would only occur in history books, that these really extraordinary time where the wall came down, the reunification took place, and whole peoples were actually freed would be the new reality. But if, however, you take a closer look at the history of our continent, then it becomes clear that this was rather the exception to the rule, confirming the rule, so to speak. So we are facing a fundamental renovation. Are we just waiting and reacting to the next crisis? Do we accept a destiny that cannot be avoided? Or do we actually take action ourselves and decide ourselves about our future? A future without aggression and oppression. A future where the next generation can really live the European dream for which our generation of founding fathers fought so hard. A cosmopolitan union open to the world. A union that concludes partnerships to strengthen our economy and our security. A union that preserves and respects the natural foundations of life. A union that rises for its values. A union that looks after stability in all of Europe. And if I say Europe, then I, of course, also mean the European Union, but together with our friends and partners on the whole continent, from the West Balkans to the Ukraine and the Republic of Moldavia, from Greenland to the United Kingdom, Norway, and beyond. We have the duty to care and look after stability jointly on this continent and ensure future perspectives. And yes, dear Friedrich, I am proud that the European Union and the United Kingdom last week showed very clearly that allies stand by their sides and that they keep Europe together. Ladies and gentlemen, to build an independent Europe, we have to get rid of our fetters. We must not be guided by the fear of change. We have to liberate ourselves from this fear. This fear of change has often paralyzed us in the past. Instead, we need to show the same ambition, the same unity, the same readiness to act as we did over past years. We have demonstrated that we can act jointly during the pandemic and overcoming the economic results in the energy crisis, overcoming the climate crisis, and when supporting Ukraine. And this list could be added to endlessly. I've stopped counting the times people say this is impossible, we're too slow, we're not in agreement enough. Each time Europe actually stood its ground. Each time, despite all of the adversities, Europe kept its promise. And I'm convinced that we need to breathe new life into this old spirit. And we should focus on 4 central tasks that will help us to build a really independent Europe. First and foremost, the development of a new form of a Pax Europaea of the 21st century that is shaped by Europe and actually managed and controlled by Europe itself. We all know about the important, the decisive role of NATO and our transatlantic partners for protecting peace and security on the continent, and this will stay that way in future. But we thought that the times of relative peace, thanks to NATO, would actually last forever. The Baltic states, dear Dalia Grybauskaite, Poland, and the countries of Central and Eastern Europe warned us. Their fight for being freed from Soviet oppression has confronted them with hardships that many others have forgotten about. And we know that this has led to a certain satisfaction, complacency. We thought that we could actually depend on the dividend of peace, but these times are gone. The enemies of our open democratic societies have rearmed, mobilized their forces, and the best case in point is Putin's unscrupulous war against Ukraine. Russia and others will actually rev up their war economy even further, and this is why there's a growing necessity to invest in our security. And it is clear that this investment will not come from external partners. The times are changing, and Europe is changing. The fact that funds up to 800 billion euros are made available for defense would be thought impossible only a few years ago. The fact that the member states have increased their defense spendings to historical numbers would have been unimaginable as well. But ladies and gentlemen, we do this because we want to defend peace with all of our might. This is our aim. And in this decade, a new international order will emerge. If the consequences resulting from this are not to be simply accepted, then we have to shape this new order. History does not excuse hesitation. Our brief reads European independence. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the second priority reads innovation and competitiveness should be center stage in Europe. Europe has everything to actually take over leadership in the world of tomorrow. An internal market that promises growth and success, a proven model of social market economy for creating prosperity and quality of life, unique talents and outstanding skilled workers, a globally recognized education and higher education system. Our universities are to become magnets for excellence. Science is free, and the freedom of science rules, and I want to stress this. A huge pool of private capital is just waiting to be invested. Reliable frame conditions for companies. This is our brand, our trademark. We are leading in many research areas that define the future. And we have an industry that is brimming with innovative power and expertise. But we're also aware that we have to catch up fast in many areas if we want to survive and be successful in the harsh winds of competition. We have a master plan to make this real. A master plan that actually fosters investment in innovation, in AI, and makes this center stage for a business model. A master plan that considers the environment, natural resources, and the health of coming generations. A master plan that actually breathes this new life into industrial innovation, attract investment, and makes it easier to establish a little startup and allow it to grow. We want that the economic world opts in favor of Europe, and this is why we say, choose Europe. This is our motto. And since this is so, I see that countries from all over the world now seek contact with us to cooperate with us because we are reliable and because we stick to rules. From India to Indonesia, from South America to South Korea, from Canada to New Zealand and Australia. It's a long list. Needless to say, we want to again place our trading partnership with the US on a solid basis, and we will always be working towards this. But we also know that 87% of world trade is taking place with other countries that all seek stability and are looking for opportunities. And this is what Europe can offer. And this is why there's such a strong interest in choosing Europe. Because an independent Europe, we will never be a protectionist continent, always open and always ready to exchange with the world. This needs to be our foundation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the third task, to have an independent Europe, is to work towards the next historical reunification of our continent, to welcome the countries of Europe who voluntarily opted in favor of accessing the Union. This is not only a moral brief for us. It is a basic condition for a stronger Europe at home and geopolitically. A bigger reunified Europe, a bigger reunified European Union will actually give more weight to a voice in the world. It will help us to reduce dependencies. It will ensure that democracy, prosperity and stability are strengthened all across Europe. Accession is, of course, always a process based on performance, but I am firmly convinced that the history is calling us now, but like in '89, when the wind of change took hold of Europe, we can see every single day how Ukraine is struggling and fighting and what it means to keep up freedom. We can see the sacrifices people are prepared to make for 3.5 years in Ukraine now. Yes, this is a historical moment, and we must not allow it to pass by without acting. We have to face this task for Ukraine, for the Western Balkans. I am so happy to welcome Edi Rama, the Prime Minister of Albania. This is a sign for the Republic of Moldavia and hopefully for Georgia, for all those who've decided in favor of a free and peaceful future in our Union, for a stronger and more independent Europe. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the fourth task underpins all other three tasks. It is the task to renew our democracy and strengthen it. And everyone knows that our democracies are under attack through external enemies who attack us with unified forces, but also internal attempts to undermine it. We have to fight these tendencies with all of our energy. For many people in Europe, living without democracy is still an experience they make every day. For many in our Union, they remember this very well. And I'm, of course, thinking of those who've experienced oppression by the Soviet regime, but also of those who actually experienced the dictatorships in Greece, Spain, or Portugal and suffered a lot. So this means our modern democracies are still young. And you'd never attain democracy once and forever. No, you have to fill them with life every single day. And history shows that democracy is easier to crash than to rebuild. When I think of the powers, the undemocratic powers gaining strength in Europe, then I'm concerned. This is not a trend that will go away. But far stronger than this concern is the duty to defend our democracy against attacks, to strengthen it and maintain it. And this is exactly what we're doing. I don't like lamenting about the voters of extremist parties. No, it's up to us to have the better arguments. It's up to us to actually understand the reasons for dissatisfaction. Many are worried about how we handle irregular migration, the higher cost of living, the too much red tape in everyday life. We're not protecting our democracies by defending the status quo. We have to be be the drivers of change. Only if we show that democracy works for people, that it delivers, only then can we create a stronger union, and Europe can only fare well if the democracy fares well. And this needs to drive us. This needs to be our obligation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, at the very beginning, my speech said that Europe is my life. As a child at the European school in Brussels, Europe was so natural for me, and it was wonderful for me. We actually did sports with the Dutch kids. We had art lessons with the Italian kids. With the French, we learned geography. And with big eyes, I watched these different people and the different activities, the many different languages. But I also understood and grasped that we all share one living space, and that we're all intertwined. Now, some decades have gone by, but I still look back and at Europe with the same eyes, and I believe that this is the link between us. We're so different and we're so diverse, and as diverse as we may be, this is so special about Europe. And I think it is great that almost 17 million young Europeans, thanks to the Erasmus program, have studied in other countries. Another 17 million people study abroad and work abroad. This is more than the whole population of the empire under Charlemagne. I'm dreaming of a union where every single young person has the possibility to live in other countries, to study there or work there, or simply buy a train ticket to visit our beautiful cities and natural landscapes, to follow the Danube as it meanders through the different countries, or to watch the wonderful treasures of Carpathia, Dalmatia, the deep black forest, to learn from others. Each and everyone should be able to learn what makes Europe so unique, see it with their own eyes. This is our big strength, and this must also be in future the foundation of our union. Whenever our cultures came together, Europe worked miracles. When Goethe traveled to Italy, for instance, attracted by the light of the old ancient cultures that formed the soul of Europe, or when the best researchers come together here at the CERN to explore the secrets of the universe. And yet, this encounter of cultures can never be seen or taken for granted. For centuries, we have fought wars with our neighbors and cultures. For decades, we were separated as a continent, and still there are some few trying hard to make us enemies. Our task is to make sure that the people feel how our respective traditions are part of a bigger one, and that this is the core of our European identity. Another Charlemagne Prize laureate, Timothy Garden Ashton, a genius, once wrote, "Identity is a mixture of the cards that we were given and what we make of them," unquote. We can focus on what divides us, but we can also make these differences a foundation of a strong European house. Our different stories can be woven into a shared future because we're all proud daughters, sons and daughters of our countries. But our roots do not end at the national borders. Our souls were shaped by the experiences of our counterparts in Europe. We're not only Italian, French, or German, Swedes, or Spaniards, or Poles, or Portuguese. We are Europeans. This empathy, this solidarity, this culture, this is what actually makes us Europeans. And this is what makes me determined and optimistic about the future of our union. This is the heritage we want to pass on to our children because we received it from our ancestors, and it is up to us to make this into an independent our Europe. I feel so honored receiving the Charlemagne Prize. I thank you, and long live Europe.